In this video, I'm going to take you through our standard best practice paid search Domo dashboard used for all paid search clients. This dashboard was designed by the paid search team with input from all team members, combining the channel expertise of the paid search team with the platform functionality expertise of the Domo team. Let's dive into an overview of each section and card, client use cases, potential customizations, and more. You'll see page filters at the top of the dashboard. Once clicked on, these filters will apply to all charts contained within this dashboard. We've included filters for engine, tactic, and geo if applicable for your accounts that are running paid search efforts in more than one market. While these filters live at the top of the dashboard, if you are scrolling through and presenting the dashboard on a client call, you can use the filters at the very top banner to apply the same segmentation without having to scroll all the way back to the top of the dashboard. We've made the same 3 filters the preset on this banner for engine, tactic, and geo. On this top banner for filters, you can also manually add a variety of other filters at any time, which will also apply to the full dashboard. Below page filters, the first card in the dashboard is the text box for your weekly agenda. This is where you'll add insights and status updates to share with your client on regular, reoccurring calls. The key purpose for this area is to add color to the metrics contained within the rest of the charts within this dashboard and connect the data to tell a story for the client. Think about the main point of performance you'd like them to take away from the call, rather than restating metrics that they can already find in the charts below. To the right of the weekly agenda are monthly pacing charts. This will give an overview of how you're pacing for the month for spend compared to your budget for the month, as well as revenue compared to your revenue goal for the month. The 2 charts on the left in green will show your month-to-date spend and revenue, while the 2 charts on the right in orange will show your linear pacing. Remember that linear pacing is showing that if you were to continue to spend at the same rate as an average per day that you have so far for the month, for the rest of the month, this is where you would land. You'll notice that these gauges do not have the budget or revenue goal as the maximum value of the lower right side of the gauge. Instead, the budget or revenue goal is the threshold indicated by the gray line slightly above the maximum value of the gauge. This was done intentionally to be able to indicate whether or not you are pacing to surpass the budget or revenue goal. If you were pacing over the budget or revenue goal, or had already spent over the budget or revenue goal month to date, the color would fill in to be displayed past the gray line to indicate that that were the case. You'll work with the Domo implementation team to provide the document that you or the client services team will be using to house the up-to-date budget and revenue goals or forecast ongoing, which is where these budgets and goals will pull from. If your client is a lead gen client where revenue won't be applicable, you can remove the 2 revenue pacing charts, making the 2 budget pacing charts larger. This is a modification that you can make on your own without submitting a ticket to the Domo team by clicking on the wrench in the upper right-hand corner of the dashboard itself, clicking Edit Dashboard, and then removing the revenue gauges and elongating the budget gauges. The last chart in this section is a trended chart showing revenue, spend, and ROAS by week for the past 6 weeks. This will give you a quick view into how these key metrics are pacing over recent weeks. This allows you to easily speak to the impact of recent activations, tests, seasonal periods, or promotions. This top section is meant to provide a quick overview of overall performance. The next section contains a snapshot of performance for key metrics for the previous week, highlighting the comparison to this week last year. More specifically, in these cards, we can see the total value or revenue counts of these metrics for the past week, as well as the % increase or decrease to last year's total. In addition to the revenue equation metrics of sessions, conversion rate, AOV, and revenue, it also includes spend and ROAS. If your client has recently launched their paid search program for the first time and does not have year-over-year data yet, this can be changed to month-over-month. We'd recommend avoiding a week-over-week comparison as to not guide the client into getting caught up in week-to-week fluctuations and losing sight of the bigger picture when it comes to performance. This is also a modification that you can make on your own by clicking on the wrench in the upper right of each metrics card, not the overall dashboard. Click Edit in Analyzer and then adjust your date comparison in the upper right. You'll need to do this for each metrics card. To update the section title in the blue bar, click the wrench in the upper right-hand corner of the dashboard itself, click Edit Dashboard, and then edit the text in the blue bar to say month over month in place of year over year. If your client is lead gen, some of these metrics will not be applicable. If that is the case, you will switch these metrics out to be spend, clicks, impressions, click-through rate, cost per click, and CPA. This is likely not a modification that you can do on your own unless you know how. You can file a ticket with the Domo team through the service desk link to help you get the metrics in these cards switched out. Going a little deeper, in the Performance by Tactics section, the first chart will provide totals without a comparison date range for the same key metrics in the charts immediately above, along with a few other supplementary metrics. These metrics are provided per tactic: brand, non-brand, and shopping. These metrics are provided for the default date range of the previous week, but can be modified to month to date depending on how performance is typically looked at for your client. As mentioned, this date range modification can easily be made by you by editing the specific card. For lead gen clients, these metrics should be changed to spend, clicks, impressions, click-through rate, cost per click, and CPA. Below that, we have a bar chart showing revenue, spend, and ROAS for each tactic for a snapshot in time. Again, the default date range is the previous week, but this can be easily changed to month to date if that is typically what is used when discussing performance for a given account. This will help visually answer questions related to return on investment for a particular tactic relative to the others and why budget is being allocated among tactics the way that it is. This also helps to visually display information to where each tactic falls in the purchase funnel as a result of these metrics. For lead gen clients, this chart will be changed to conversions, spend, and CPA by tactic to communicate the same story. To the right, we can take this a step further and see two pie charts displaying the breakout of revenue and spend per tactic, seeing both dollar quantities and percentages. This will help quickly answer questions related to budget allocation and which tactics are driving what portion of overall revenue. This can also help to reiterate where each tactic falls in the purchase funnel. For lead gen clients, the revenue pie chart can be replaced with conversions by tactic, or you may consider using the second pie chart to display a different breakout of spend if applicable, perhaps spend by region, or maybe spend by a different campaign type. Again, the default date range is the previous week, but this can be easily changed to month to date. Whether previous week or month to date, just make sure that all charts in this section have the same date range for reporting consistency. Below that is a word cloud showing non-brand keywords by clicks. The larger size in which the keywords are displayed, the more clicks they have received relative to the other keywords. This chart provides a visual representation, typically more for clients than for our internal teams, for questions like, what types of non-brand terms are we bidding on? Or, which non-brand terms are we getting the most volume for? If your client is not running non-brand, this may be modified to pull in brand keywords by clicks. However, including either brand or non-brand keywords, rather than both, will avoid skewing the data depending on budget allocation between tactics. Same as the rest of the charts in this section, the default date range is the previous week, but this can be easily changed to month to date. In the last row of this section, we have 3 donut charts displaying sessions by user type, new or returning users. The first donut chart shows new versus returning users for the paid search program overall, while the second and third donut charts show new versus returning users for the higher funnel tactics of non-brand and shopping individually. This can help answer questions regarding how many new users paid search is bringing in overall, how many new users searching and clicking on relevant non-brand terms have been to our site before, or give us an idea of how many users clicking on our shopping ads may have been searching on a branded term versus non-branded, assuming that the majority of our returning users clicking on our shopping ads were likely searching on a brand term, knowing that shopping queries are a mix of brand and non-brand. Again, the default date range is the previous week, but this can be easily changed to month to date. The final section of this dashboard is the Performance Trends section, which includes trended year-over-year views of all key metrics grouped together to answer common questions and tell individual stories on 3 different key aspects of performance. A single metric is included in each card, and 3 to 4 metrics are grouped together per story or equation. On the first row, we have revenue, spend, and ROAS year-over-year for the past 6 weeks, including the current week. This allows us to answer questions related to investment compared to revenue generated, and most explicitly, answer why return is what it is for a given week based on fluctuations in investment and revenue generated for that investment. If your client is lead gen, these metrics will be swapped out for spend, conversions, and CPA, allowing you to tell the same story just with CPA rather than ROAS. On the second row, we have clicks, impressions, and click-through rate year-over-year for recent weeks to speak to different metrics related to traffic and answer why click-through rate is what it is for a given week based on click and/or impression fluctuations. On the third and final row, we have the revenue equation showing sessions, conversion rate, AOV, and revenue year-over-year for recent weeks. This will help answer likely the most common question of why is revenue up or down. With these charts, we can easily point to which contributing metric or metrics led to the revenue we saw for a given week, and do so in a visual way that is more likely to resonate with a client. For lead gen clients, these metrics will be swapped out for clicks, conversion rate, and conversions, as clicks and conversion rate are the 2 factors that impact total conversion count. While this dashboard may not answer all the nuances you or your client would like to see on a regular basis on calls, this is a comprehensive dashboard taking into account a variety of client and account scenarios and should be a strong foundation meeting the majority of the needs for every paid search account. Feel free to make customizations on your own relating to things mentioned previously, things like changing previous week performance to month to date if you typically discuss performance at a month to date level, or changing year-over-year performance to month-over-month if your client's paid search program has not yet hit its 1-year mark. If there are customizations you'd like to make that require the Domo implementation team's assistance, such as swapping out metrics in some charts for lead gen clients, please submit a Domo service ticket. Modifications for lead gen clients will also most likely be covered in the initial build of the dashboard, which you will be in communication with the Domo implementation team on. During the initial build of the dashboard, you will also work with the Domo implementation team to apply a specific fiscal calendar to the date ranges used throughout the dashboard as applicable. In addition to customizations needed from the Domo team, if you're seeing any data discrepancies or if anything looks to be broken or not pulling in properly, send through all troubleshooting requests by submitting a service desk ticket. We are regularly iterating on this dashboard based on how the channel is growing and changing. Your voice matters. Let us know your ideas.